What's up, everybody out there in YouTube land? Wrath2501 here. Okay, coming with a video that wasn't requested, but I found it, and it just looked really interesting. This is from a somewhat smaller YouTuber named ValveTech, like the name, by the way. And this is Heavy Update Wishlist. And he just came out with this, and I think we'd all like to see. I like to see some speculation and suggestions about the Heavy Update, which better be coming, or I'm going to do something crazy. Anyway, so let's see what he has to say about it. Alright, so let's go.
Daniel from ValveTech, and welcome back to the video. In today's video, I thought I would go back and re-bring up an old discussion video I made about 8 or 9 months ago regarding what I would like to see in a hypothetical heavy update. I say hypothetical because that would be even assuming that the next update we actually get is anything heavy related at this point. Yeah, I know. Anyways, the heavy update is something that has been building in anticipation since the release of Jungle Inferno all the way back in 2017, when Valve said that there was a possibility that the class who lost would receive an update and, you know, just potentially get a whole new set of guns, maps, cosmetics, etc. in the future. As you know, the Pyro won that Jungle Inferno update, and we got the Pyro themed update, which, you know, did great things for the Pyro, fixed the flame particles totally. But yeah, the Pyro won, which left the heavy in the dust. Well, not entirely, because he actually got the second banana, which is a really good side range of the sandwich if you don't have a pocket medic to feed. But past that, the heavy is left to, well, where he pretty much stands a decade ago. Just the low-key smart Russian who fires big guns at the enemy team and eats sandwiches. And raw meat.
Sandwich.
Anyhow, I have a list proposed of some general ideas and concepts I would like to see added in a hypothetical update. Now, while I have ideas in terms of balancing, while I have a lot of ideas in terms of maps and just like a lot of the fluff stuff, like cosmetics and stuff, I would like to really cover that in a separate video and make it its own subject. Because with all that being said, I want to sort of focus on like the technicality of a successful update. And what I mean by that more specifically is just in terms of balance, how would the heavy fare up if we got the chance to make changes. Now, something I've talked over when I asked many people what they would like in a heavy update, similar to most pretty big updates, is to have an overall general theme. Now, I'm going to cover like some of the basics in terms of how the heavy update would probably be like themed and stuff like that, but I'm not going to go too much in the cosmetics weapons. I'll just give you like a general concept list of what I think would really fit a heavy update, but other than that, I really just want to talk about that balance of heavy more than anything. So I guess you can more consider this a wish of like heavy update balancing, but you know, I feel like me personally, this is the thing I'm most passionate about when it comes to fixing the heavy as a class. So I'll be starting off by covering mostly just some like the basic theme for the update and a lot of the weapons and cosmetics. I think that would suit it really well, and then just kind of head right into how we could statistically improve the heavy. Now, one thing I would be a big fan of, in honesty, for this update in whole is honestly just taking what we already have. If you guys don't know, there was this update that was proposed back in 2016 called the Frontline Update, which was made by a bunch of members of the community. And honestly, if they just took a lot of the stuff that came in that update, well, it's not really an update, it's more of just a concept. If they turned it into an update, though, I feel it would be a perfect fit for the heavy, given his basic gameplay role and sort of military-esque Russian vibes he rubs off. The Frontline update also has a lot of unreleased content and cosmetics that I feel would fit perfectly into a heavy-based update. Now, going off of said theme for the Frontline update, I feel a lot of the weapons and cosmetics that would be introduced into this update could easily come from the Frontline collection that is being displayed on the Steam Workshop. I'll actually leave a link in the description below. There's a whole collection featuring a ton of different weapons, cosmetics, skins, just everything, retextures, game modes. Just a bunch of items that I've collected over the past 4 years, and just kind of like if they implemented even half of those into the game, it would honestly make a really rich packed up. So with that all the way, moving on from that, like I said, I was sort of just wanted to bounce on that because I think it would be more interesting to cover a lot of the more like cosmetic weapon side of things in a separate video, because as I said, this is going to be generally more or less me just kind of talking about the balance with heavy. I'm gonna do a little assessment of heavy in terms of his casual play and discuss what I think either needs buffs, nerfs, general changes, stuff like that. Once again, I'd like to reiterate that this is me talking about heavy in terms of general casual play and not competitive, because I'm a filthy casual who is too scared to step foot in anything outside of basic Valve comp.
Nobody plays.
Also, if this video seems familiar, it's because it's pretty much straight from Soundscape. Okay, so now in terms of balance with the heavy, I'm gonna start off by talking about just his current set of weapons I would like to see. And just discuss them in a general casual sense, and sort of just talk about like whether they need buffs, nerfs, etc. Just really whatever I feel the heavy currently needs to make a lot of his arsenal a lot more effective. So regarding his primaries, I feel there's a really horrible balance going on in terms of his weapons, with them either being S tier or C tier. Of course, there's like maybe one gun that I would say is average, but that wouldn't be noting its stupid slow mechanics. Valve, why? I think you already can tell where this first weapon is going. You know, Valve, you nerfed the Sandman to not have stun mechanics, that you allow this minigun that flails bullets out like crazy at you to slow you down to a crawl speed, giving you no room for the escape the moment he locks on you. Just... Look, alright, we're gonna start off with the Natasha. I'm really not a big fan of this weapon, and yes, there is an extreme bias going on considering the class I main. I feel like the Natasha as a weapon by design is made to be a crutch for heavies, learning to get good with tracking and positioning. Of course, call me out if you disagree, but I feel like the drawbacks this weapon poses compared to the upsides, such as increased resistance when below 50%, and the ability to slow enemies, is really nothing in comparison to the gun doing a little less damage and making it have a slower spin-up time. Now, I found a great discussion regarding this weapon and a Reddit post on r/tf2. I know, how original, but it's pretty much regarding the identity crisis this gun has suffered since its release over a decade ago. Because basically the Natasha is a weird mesh of encouragement to play both frontline and roamer style, which obviously does not blend well when you're trying to do both at once, which you can't obviously. But the new stats as proposed in this post would allow the heavy to carry more ammo and move faster when revved up, with the rev speed being a little bit faster and the stun mechanics of course removed, or slow mechanics, whatever you want to call them. I feel this would be a great change for the gun, as it incentivizes heavies to sort of use this weapon how probably Valve envisioned it to be intended when it first dropped, which is to be a bit more flanky and stealthy when playing as heavy, and using the map to your advantage to get the jump on your enemies.
20 damage.
Overall, I would say the Natasha is one of the most frustrating guns heavy has to offer, and I completely agree with the changes suggested to this gun. Now, the Brass Beast, while true to its name, pretty much makes you a slightly faster moving sentry gun. Now, saying that, you probably think it's a great gun that incentivizes a more stationary, tanky playstyle, which is great until you realize these classes exist. Now, the Brass Beast has always been the underdog in miniguns, and the work you put in to use the gun in most casual settings doesn't really reward heavies for using it. The 20% damage increase is great, and the negative 20% damage resistance below 50% and spawn up is great. When you could barely move at all, it just seems counterintuitive, and in most cases, you'd be better off just using a minigun that gives you the mobility to move around more quickly to dodge projectiles and bullets. Now, with that being said, I feel like this gun should almost have stats similar to those seen on Demo Knight's shields. Just a ton of resistance. I feel like if you're gonna design a weapon based around stripping the heavy of his mobility more than he already is by default, you might as well make him a slightly more mobile sentry gun. I think giving him resistances of any sorts, whether it be explosive, fire, crit, whatever, of all kinds, would just help make the Brass Beast heavy more of a force to be reckoned with. Stack that with the Vaccinator Medic or an NG Dispenser, and here you have a weapon that's really worth the sum of its parts.
I'll use it.
Overall, the Brass
like
Beast
if I'm
is
gonna
just
be
the ugly
defensive.
stepsister than Natasha, in my opinion, and in most cases, I would much rather take the Natasha over the Brass Beast. But I feel with the changes I mentioned, the Brass Beast can sort of form its own identity as a more tanky, high DPS monster. So now, moving on to the current meta heavy primary, the Toboslav...
But I want the
this gun right now is, in my opinion, almost too good, and I feel like in most situations, it will outclass stock in almost every fashion, except outside of close range. With the only downside being its 20% slower firing speed, the gun rocks more accuracy, meaning more bullets will connect if heavies are already good with tracking, a silent rev up, meaning you could pretty much use this weapon in whatever fashion you want, whether it be frontline or stealthy, and a faster rev time than stock. It's really hard to argue this weapon to be really worse than stock in any way. And the truth of the matter, it kind of isn't. There are plenty of videos debating between these two weapons over the years, and which one is arguably the best. In terms of heavy dueling, in most cases, the Toboslav is just more efficient and rewards heavies for doing what they already do with stock, which is pretty much just shooting enemies. I feel some necessary changes to make this weapon not outclass stock too much would be to maybe nerf the firing speed another 5 to 10% to really hit home that this weapon is more of a precision mid-range type minigun, because the current fire rate really hasn't stopped many heavies from just becoming more efficient frontline heavies, you know, than they would already do if they were using stock.
Is nobody noticing him?
Personally, I don't think the Toboslav needs too dire changes, and while I feel like it competes with stock a little too much, it's still a great weapon on its own. Now, the Hulock Heater is a weapon that suffers the fate of just being a little bit too situational with a lot of the other counterparts. While the concepts of the weapon to have a ring of fire and deal more damage to burning enemies is cool, it's really only the ammo consumption that really hits this weapon hard. Honestly, it really is the only thing stopping the gun from becoming used a little bit more frequently on heavies, because when you're on the cart with this thing, it can be a blast, especially if you have a pyro to work with. I feel like if the gun only consumed 2 to 3 ammo per second instead of 4, it would make all the difference in terms of its viability, and make a more popular choice for both me and others. However, honestly, even on its own, if it stayed this way, it's still a pretty viable gun, and honestly, it's just sort of underrated. Okay, so now I kind of want to transition into some of the secondaries for heavy, but really the only one I really want to focus on is the Buffalo Steak Sandwich, because it's just really bad, alright? Like, I wish it would be better. Because, like, outside of medieval mode, there really isn't anything serious you could pull off with this. First off, I feel like being able to switch back to your primary at any time while under the effects of this is a much needed change, because having to wait up to 16 seconds to switch back is pretty much a death sentence if you're playing up in the front lines, and while you maybe plan on getting one quick melee pick, you are now pretty much stuck waiting an extra 10 seconds to actually start helping your team again. The weapon overall is just in a horrible spot right now, and I would hope that if an update for the Heavy ever arrived, it would start to see some better days. Now, in terms of melee for the Heavy, I would just like to see some buffs to the Warrior Spirit and the Brass Knuckles. First off, the Brass Knuckles somehow do less damage than stock, which makes no sense, so maybe if they would make it a little bit more powerful, obviously still not as good as stock in terms of damage. If they just focused a bit more on DPS with this thing, it would actually be pretty good, even if it wasn't still as powerful as the stock fists.
That's something.
Also, they just need to revert the change that makes you
Heavy should have in a lot of his different weapons is something that reduces his. It's basically just a standard.
Moving on from that, the Warrior Spirit just please not make it like to where you're super vulnerable when you equip it. Maybe just nerf the damage penalty that Heavy takes down to like 10 to 15%. Just something to not make him a glass cannon when he's dashing around with him. So overall, the Heavy just needs an overhaul in the grand scheme of things. I mean, yeah, that's kind of obvious, but he needs a different playstyle and just something that doesn't make him the same big Russian who shoots a gun that he's been accustomed to for the past decade or so.
Yeah, that's the thing. He needs something to change
overall,
him up because basically all he does is he's slow and he shoots stuff.
Of course, let me know in the comments below what you think about the current state of Heavy and the casual competitive for all the COD dudes out there. I would be interested to know your thoughts. Other than that, guys, sorry for the delay in uploads. I've been kind of sick, and this video kind of took a while to put together. It's obviously not. This isn't like my best work, obviously, and I'm sorry. I've just been sick, and trying to edit this while not dying has been quite nice little balance there. But I kind of wanted to get this video out because I found it to be kind of interesting, and I actually really care about the Heavy class. So, other than that, guys, if you enjoyed this video or any of my other content, please consider subbing to the channel. It helps out a ton. We're getting really close to 3K subs, which is honestly insane, guys. I cannot seriously thank you enough for all the support you guys have given me. Sorry if I haven't really gotten back to you. If you left me a comment or a message on Steam, I've just been like super busy, and it's hard to manage every single comment. So if I don't get back to you right away, please, I'm sorry. I hope I can eventually get to you. But other than that, guys, I would like to thank you all once again for watching. And as always,
he's saying about how a lot of these things are overpowered, but that's the thing is you've got still have Spy and Sniper. That's why Heavy has to have all these different powerful guns. Is because he has to deal with spies and snipers who basically just sweep through Heavies like nothing. Though I do agree that Heavy does need something in a Heavy update that would change his playstyle. Something like if he had a melee style. Something like he didn't have the minigun. He just used melee weapons and had like something that increased his defense and you could call, and his speed, and you could call like Berserker Heavy or something like that, like the Rabid Heavy from the Rabid Heavy Taming Engineer. That would be awesome if he had a set like that where he's just running around, just starts beating the shit out of everything, just like a Demo Knight does. But he's got high defense, so he's kind of hard to stop. But of course, the Spy can still backstab and he can still be headshot. But he has like a rush or something like that where he just goes, and he slams into where he slams into like another, where he does a charge and he goes straight, and if he slams into an enemy, he slams into it and hits them hard. It's not like an instant kill like with the Demo Knight's, crit with his sword, but it does a lot of damage. And then he can start like mauling them with his punches. That would be a pretty cool thing. What do you guys think? So I agree with some of the things he says. I don't think his weapons really need to be nerfed. Like he says, of course, like he said, he's biased. But I don't agree with some of his weapons need to be nerfed because Heavy does have to put up with a lot of shit. But Lazy Purple said it best. If you ever want to increase your paranoia and think that every moment of life is a gift and I can be shot in the face at any second, then play Heavy. Because you can't move a lot. Sniper's just like, it's just like you're just waiting for a sniper to kill you. Anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. Don't forget to click on ValveTech's link on the original, get down to ValveTech's channel and subscribe to him. Don't forget to subscribe to me before you go, and I'm definitely going to subscribe to ValveTech. So I will see you guys next time. Tune in every day for new content, and bye-bye.